Versatile Mage. Chapter 426. Fight Back. The teachers opened their eyes wide. Bai Mei said, "He has 3 elements to cultivate. His fire and lightning elements are quite impressive. If his summoning element has also achieved the intermediate level, isn't his cultivation rate a bit too terrifying?" The teachers let out relieved sighs when they discovered that Mo Fan was not casting the intermediate summoning spell. They were almost scared to death by this guy. It was a relief that he did not have a contracted beast. As a matter of fact, Mo Fan's summoning element had already reached the intermediate level. He could also cast the spell adeptly. The problem was, he did not have enough money to buy a suitable contracted beast. Among the contracted beasts he had seen, those that could match the Swift Star Wolf's strength after they matured cost 40 million IMB or above. It was rather meaningless to buy a contracted beast weaker than the Swift Star Wolf. Zhao Ji was soaked in cold sweat on the dueling ground. When he discovered that Mo Fan did not have a contracted beast, he could not help but chuckle. Everyone already knew about the duels, and if he ended up defeating the Demon King, it would be a great boost to his reputation. His clan would take him seriously from now on. Zhao Ji knew that Mo Fan was running out of energy. He did not give him any chance to catch his breath. The intermediate fire spell was already burning on his right fist. Meanwhile, his figure was surrounded by glowing shields. The golden glow formed a full circle of protection around him, shielding him perfectly. Despite the power of Mo Fan's basic spells, he was unable to blast Zhao Ji's light element shields away. Zhao Ji was using a spirit-grade light element soul seed, granting him a sturdier defense. Mo Fan hated fighting against magicians with fire and earth elements. Similarly, he was not a fan of the light element either, as it perfectly countered his shadow element. Chanjin, Thunderbolt, Yaksha. Mo Fan cast an intermediate spell without hesitation. His fingers swiped across the night sky, summoning a purple-black storm cloud above Zhao Ji. Following the flicker on his fingertip, a wide thunderbolt plummeted toward the ground. In the midst of striking down, it forked into several lightning arcs, like a black claw tearing the air apart. The place began to tremble from the formidable power. The power of Thunderbolt, Yaksha, was fairly shocking. It was pretty much Mo Fan's strongest attack besides the Fiery Fist, 9 halls. However, it felt like the cunning Zhao Ji was baiting Mo Fan to cast an intermediate spell. When he saw the thunderbolt, he quickly extinguished the fire on his right fist and cast a light element spell. Light Protection, Rampart. Several golden rays intertwined above Zhao Ji, forming a floating golden wall. The thunderbolt struck the glowing wall. However, it felt like its power was being absorbed. The destructive spell was quickly nullified without causing much destruction. The purple-black lightning arcs broke down rapidly on the light protection, Rampart, soon disappearing from the surface of the wall. "Trying to defeat me in one blow. How much energy do you have left to fight against me?" Zhao Ji asked with a sinister grin. Mo Fan was not bothered by Zhao Ji's provocation. He stood on the spot, like a lamp running out of fuel. "It's time for you to pay the price." Zhao Ji's right fist was engulfed in flames once again. The flames that spread in all directions quickly gathered on his wrist, a strong energy bursting from it. Fiery Fist, Groundbreak. Zhao Ji also had a spirit-grade flame. The power of his Fiery Fist, Groundbreak, was comparable to Li Yuji's. The blazing red flames lit up the entire stage. Mo Fan was forced to use his departing nether shield. He quickly backed off, trying to avoid the region with the strongest power. The departing nether shield blocked most of the power, but the scorching flames managed to penetrate it, burning Mo Fan's favorite shirt into ashes and revealing his scorched chest. The flames covered Mo Fan's figure. If it weren't for his fire resistance, his body would most likely be beyond recognition. The departing nether shield blocked the tremendous force that could burn him into ashes, yet the lingering burning effect still applied. Mo Fan was injured. He clenched his teeth in pain as he was burned. A few parts of his body were obviously scorched. Zhao Ji wore a smile when he saw the damage he had inflicted on his opponent. His victory was just around the corner. His light protection rampart had already disappeared. Basically, he only needed to throw his fist at Mo Fan to end the battle. The scorching flames continued to burn on the stage. Mo Fan stood in the midst of the fire, holding his departing nether shield. The light of the fire revealed a strange grin on his face. Suddenly, a long spike thrust forward from the departing nether shield. It was the counterattack of the departing nether shield, the departing nether spike. It penetrated the scorching flames and appeared in front of Zhao Ji within the blink of an eye. The departing nether spike was like a cold sword piercing through the night sky. It swept across the burning zone of fire. Zhao Ji had no idea it existed until the icy spike that could penetrate everything was already coming toward him. Rock barrier. Wei Rong reacted fairly quickly and cast an earth spell. No one had seen him drawing the stars. A rock barrier suddenly emerged in front of Zhao Ji. The departing nether spike penetrated the rock barrier. Its tip was inches away from Zhao Ji's face. Zhao Ji broke out in cold sweat. His body froze in place. He stared at the rock barrier in front of him in disbelief, before glancing at the departing nether spike that had almost taken his life. Zhao Ji, you're already dead if you're fighting against a demon beast. You've lost the fight, Wei Rong harumphed coldly. Zhao Ji totally lost his mind. He never thought Mo Fan, who had already used up all his energy, would lunge back at him like a poisonous scorpion's last struggle. He had lost the important duel just because he had lowered his guard too early. He raised his head and saw the burns on Mo Fan's body. He gathered his remaining dignity after suffering the loss, and sneered, injuring you is more than enough. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 427. Scared of the transfer student. The students of the fire school were desperate. They never thought the strongest student among the challengers, Zhao Ji, would lose too. Zhao Ji was too careless. It was already a win for him, yet he somehow lost the battle due to a counterattack. That being said, the shield equipment was rather unique, able to counterattack. No one could have predicted it. Most importantly, the Demon King was indeed injured by Zhao Ji's fiery fist and was on the verge of losing the duel. Who knew that the shield equipment would cost him the victory? This departing nether shield isn't very sturdy, but the counterattack isn't bad. At least it was worth my money, Mo Fan mumbled to himself as he put the departing nether shield away. He was going to burst into laughter, but the pain from the burns on his body stopped him from doing that. Luckily, his injuries were not too severe. Otherwise, he would be unable to focus enough to align the stars and lose the ability to fight. Zhao Ji walked down from the stage. He was still glaring at Mo Fan behind him viciously. He almost walked into a bulky man whose hair was dyed golden. The man had a fair skin tone and a tall nose. His facial features were rather outstanding, similar to a Westerner, yet he still retained the looks of an Easterner, unlike Zhao Ji, whose face and skin were covered in strange black marks. So you're here, too. I was so close to winning some reputation for our Zhao clan. However, I bet he's having a hard time from the flames. They're going to scorch his skin black if he doesn't treat them now. Zhao Ji said to the man with golden hair. The man was half a head taller than Zhao Ji. He was staring down at Zhao Ji coldly. Suddenly, the golden-haired man raised his hand and slapped Zhao Ji hard across the face. The slap was remarkably loud, immediately attracting the attention of the crowd, who were discussing how they could possibly beat the Demon King. Who's that guy? Yeah, he dared to hit the 101 ranked Zhao Ji. What's going on? What just happened? I didn't see it. Did you say Zhao Ji was hit? The crowd burst into an uproar. They clearly saw Zhao Ji taking a few steps backward after being hit. A tooth covered in blood had dropped to the ground too. How hard did that man slap him? Blood started leaking from Zhao Ji's mouth. His gaze was filled with anger, yet he did not dare to show it on his face, which was full of disbelief. It's only a duel that I've lost. Zhao Ji protested, withholding his anger. Those who were familiar with Zhao Ji found it unbelievable. Zhao Ji was the vengeful sort, so it made no sense that he did not fight back after being slapped in the face in front of the crowd. Didn't he feel ashamed? Piss off from my sight, before I turn you into a cripple. The golden-haired man glared at Zhao Ji. Zhao Ji's status was clearly a lot lower than that person. Despite being humiliated, he did not dare to say a word more. He glanced at the tooth in front of his foot before leaving furiously. Fellow student, it's unwise to use violence in the school, Bai Mei said to the golden-haired man in an advising tone. Sir, I was attending a family matter. I'm sorry for the inconvenience caused. The golden-haired man smiled, a completely different appearance from his previous icy look. Wei Rong was aware of it too. He was not happy when his student was struck, but when he saw Zhao Ji not daring to fight back, he immediately speculated that this golden-haired man had a formidable background and decided not to intervene in their business. Most people were clueless about what had just happened. Meanwhile, on the stage, Mo Fan, whose upper body was completely exposed, uttered a laugh. It's been half a year, yet your temper is still the same. Mo Fan seemed to be extremely close with the golden-haired man. He greeted him from the stage. You are the same, too. If I hadn't come to check out the huge challenges out of boredom, I wouldn't even know you'd come back to school. The golden-haired man responded with a laugh too, like old friends meeting one another. It was just a challenge, said Mo Fan. I don't care. All I care is that whoever hurts Zhao Manting's friend, I will show no mercy, regardless of who they are. Besides, he's just a dog raised by my clan, declared Zhao Manting. Nice hair. I thought the next time I saw you, you would be lying inside a coffin. Impressive, you're participating in school activities so energetically. Zhao Manting grinned with gleaming eyes. The last time he saw Mo Fan, he had long hair reaching the ground, and his body was shrouded by a demonic aura because of the experiment that Lu Nian and his crew were obsessed with. He thought he would never see this guy again, after he turned into a demon to save their lives. To his surprise, Mo Fan was currently standing alive in front of him. Just like how he had taken all the resources from the new students back in the day, he was now challenging more than 200 students from the fire school in a row. After confirming that Mo Fan was still alive, the burden in his heart was lifted. As for that scum Zhao Ji who had injured his best brother, there was time to deal with him later. Mo Fan had saved his life, so he was considered Zhao clan's benefactor. The Zhao clan had given Zhao Ji his cultivation and his soul seeds, so slapping a tooth out from his mouth was barely even a punishment. Zhao Manting did not want to disturb Mo Fan's fun task of challenging the entire fire school. He quickly found a spot and sat down with a girl who was wearing revealing clothing. Mo Fan was speechless when he saw that Zhao Manting had another new girlfriend. Next, ranked 467th, Wei Rong read out the challenger's name. However, after Zhao Ji's defeat, the challengers no longer posed any threat to Mo Fan. Those ranked after 400 were easily defeated. The number of challengers had exceeded 200, and the duels had lasted until late in the night. Normally, the students would be resting or meditating in their rooms, but the place was still fully crowded. None of the challengers seemed to pose any threat to Mo Fan, even though he no longer had the energy to cast intermediate spells. They still could not handle his basic spells, despite his injuries. However, the crowd discovered something that gave them hope. At long last, Mo Fan seemed to be extremely worn out. As a matter of fact, Mo Fan had almost lost his ability to fight after the battle against Zhao Ji. He only managed to win because of the departing Nether Spike's counterattack. We've finally depleted his energy. All we need is someone ranked in the top 200. Not even, as long as they aren't those idiots ranked after 600, we can basically finish him off. I don't understand why you are so excited. He defeated more than 200 people from your school, said a student from a different element. Anything is better than getting wiped out completely. Otherwise, the fire school would surely become a laughing stock. Everyone was intimidated by Mo Fan's capabilities. They were starting to feel scared of the transfer student. Most importantly, if this guy actually survived all the challenges, their fire school would never be able to raise their heads in front of the other elements. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 428. Incomplete. Last challenger, ranked 173rd, Zhou Tong. Shouted Wei Rong after gathering his resolve. Without anyone noticing, there was only a single challenger remaining. Even Wei Rong was slightly terrified of this transfer student now. Although the challengers took turns fighting him instead of battling against him at the same time, the number of people he had defeated was enough to stack up like a wall. When the students of the fire school learned that the last challenger was ranked higher than 200, it felt like a glimpse of hope to them. Even if Mo Fan managed to cast a spell in the end, there was no way he would win the battle against an expert ranked in the top 200. It turned out that the heavens were still treating him fairly. This Zhou Tong is in luck. I should have put my name down too. Maybe I would have been the last challenger instead. There's nothing to be happy about. The transfer student had defeated more than 200 students from our fire school. I wouldn't dare to say I'm from the fire school anymore. It's still better than all of us getting wiped out. True, that. The 173rd ranked Zhou Tong was everyone's last hope. Zhou Tong was short, with an underbite. His appearance was fairly atrocious, yet his tiny eyes had a slightly arrogant look to them. He glanced at Mo Fan and chuckled like a rat before he said, I thought I was going to miss the chance to achieve the 100th rank since I registered way too late. What a surprise, you managed to last until now. Zhou Tong seemed to be talking with Mo Fan in an indifferent manner. The truth was, his deceitful eyes were occasionally looking at someone else. That person was Lu Qian. As a matter of fact, the two were merely associates with one another, yet when Lu Qian found out that Zhou Tong's turn was at the very end, he had asked the last challenger to do him a favor. Lu Qian wanted Mo Fan to be severely injured, serious enough for him to be tied to a bed for a few months. If he succeeded, Lu Qian the moneybag would reward him greatly. Lu Qian was definitely brooding about the transfer student. In Zhou Tong's opinion, he only needed to do a fairly simple task for a great reward, since the transfer student was so worn out on the surface that he most likely could not even cast another spell. Mo Fan stood there with a slightly pale face. The battles had been going on for too long. His energy was finally depleted. Besides that, his injuries were getting worse. It was fairly impressive that he had managed to hold on until now. Mr. Wei Rong, please go ahead with the countdown. Don't give him too much time to rest, urged Zhou Tong, as if he could not wait to claim his victory. Wei Rong nodded and announced the beginning of the battle. As soon as he finished the announcement, a voice suddenly interrupted, with words directed at Wei Rong. That's enough for today. The crowd was unaware that Dean Xiao had also arrived at the dueling ground and spoke out in time to stop the duel. Dean Xiao. Dean. Some of the teachers politely offered their seats. Meanwhile, even though the fire school was not under Dean Xiao's control, he was still the institute's dean, thus it was reasonable to respect him. Mo Fan, you're coming down, too. There's no need to make this into the fish dies or the net splits situation. It won't bring any good to your development here at the fire school, Dean Xiao said to Mo Fan. You're right, Mo Fan nodded. Apologize to Mr. Wei Rong, and to your senior brothers and sisters in the fire school. After all, you're a freshman here. Dean Xiao was obviously here to take control of the situation. Fine. Mo Fan was not bullheaded. Since Dean Xiao had made his point clear, it was indeed unwise to continue on with the duel. Mo Fan faced Wei Rong and apologized with his head lowered, before obeying Dean Xiao's order by apologizing to the students of the fire school. The Demon King seemed fairly sincere, yet the apology was neither painful nor itching for him. The students of the fire school were dumbfounded. Wasn't he supposed to apologize to them one at a time? Did Dean Xiao seriously clear the guy's offense by asking him to make such a simple apology? Dean Xiao, If we don't let him apologize to them one by one, how is the fire school going to retain its reputation in the Pearl Institute? Said Wei Rong softly. Oh Wei Rong, if the duel were to take place, this Zhou Tong won't stand a chance against Mo Fan, whispered Dean Xiao to Wei Rong. Gu Han nodded. As a matter of fact, he already tried to give Wei Rong a hint. He no longer has the energy to fight. How could Zhou Tong possibly win the duel? Said Wei Rong with his brows raised and a slight hint of anger. Dean Xiao did not want too many people to know about Mo Fan's true talent. After all, some things were better left secret as they started preparing for the World College tournament. Exposing too much would not bring any advantage to them. As such, he whispered a few words into Wei Rong's ears. Wei Rong was not an idiot either. Even though Dean Xiao had vaguely touched upon it, he immediately broke out in cold sweat. Wei Rong soon understood why Dean Xiao had come in person to take control of the situation. He was actually helping them preserve the fire school's reputation. It went without saying that Dean Xiao knew Mo Fan was a maniac who had 4 elements. If the duel were to continue on, the stubborn Mo Fan would surely use his shadow element. There was no way Zhou Tong would have any chance against him. Considering that Mo Fan was going to represent their school in the World College tournament, Dean Xiao had no intention of exposing Mo Fan's 4th element, since the World College tournament was extremely important to their nation. If that's the case, the challenges for today have officially come to an end. Wei Rong did not dare to ask any further. The few sentences that Dean Xiao had uttered already revealed enough information to him. Wei Rong did not dare to put the reputation of his fire school at stake. Since Mo Fan had already apologized to him and the students, everyone was given a way out. We can't let it end like this. Let Zhou Tong fight him. Yeah, it's either the majority in the fire school are trash just like he said, or he apologizes to every single one of us. The students of the fire school were unsatisfied. They demanded that Mo Fan apologize individually, as the humiliation they had suffered today was great. Otherwise, how could they possibly retain their face? Wasn't he acting smug just then? Yes, he might be strong, and many of us admit that we are no match against him. Yet, that doesn't mean we'll let him trample our dignity and leave it just like that, said one of the losers. Mo Fan was initially the public enemy, and it was obvious that he was completely worn out and was obviously going to lose the duel. Most people had no intention of letting him go. Hey, those who are from the fire school, enough with your shamelessness. I would feel too ashamed to even show my temper after over 200 students from my school were defeated in a row. Are you seriously asking him to apologize to every one of you still? Don't you feel embarrassed? Scolded I Tutu from within the crowd, who had come here early to watch the duels. That's right. Maybe he's kind enough to forfeit the duel as he doesn't want to put the fire school in a worse spot, and you guys are still dropping stones on the man who has fallen into a well. Didn't you hear that Dean Xiao and your elemental director have agreed to call it off? Meanwhile, you peeps who are jealous of the glory he has earned today are trying to protect your hilarious loss of dignity. Many of the students from the other elements were standing on Mo Fan's side. The people of the fire school had always been proud and arrogant, not showing any respect to the other elements. It gladdened their hearts to see the transfer student teaching the fire school a lesson. The students of the fire school were even more infuriated after hearing those comments. They were even more determined not to let Mo Fan go so easily. His apology to the whole school was nowhere near enough. Many people were waiting for the scornful guy to lower his head and apologize to them one by one. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 429. Strange Body Composition. Wei Rong pulled a long face when he heard the objections from the students. His already rough look turned even fiercer and more intimidating. Enough, Wei Rong yelled in a rough voice. His voice quickly covered the sound of the crowd, as if none of them dared to make any noise when Wei Rong clenched his brow. The students of the fire school were fairly respectful of their elemental director. Wei Rong glanced at the students of the fire school and spoke, "Today, I'm totally disappointed by you all. It's meaningless for the duel to keep going from this point onward. Initially, I desired every student in the fire school to become an elite, an outstanding magician, which is why I was strict with a transfer student whom I assumed had given up on his previous element halfway. However, he has proven to everyone that he's no weaker than most of the students from the fire school. If you're really not satisfied with the result, then fight him in a fair duel in the future, instead of stirring up a scene here to save a little bit of your dignity. Dignity is something you earn with your hands. I hope that one day, a student of our fire school is able to defeat this transfer student at his peak. That will be the best justification to the school." Wei Rong's words echoed in the students' minds. Most of them were simply demanding an ending they could accept for the matter at hand, yet they had totally ignored the fact that they had lost the duels. Many began to feel ashamed. Bai Mei nodded with a slight smile. If Wei Rong had done this earlier, he would have stopped the criticism from the other elemental schools. "Mo Fan, down you go. Your injuries aren't light at all. Any delay further might affect your recovery," said Bai Mei. Mo Fan nodded. He was indeed feeling extremely uncomfortable. Luckily, Dean Xiao had made it in time. He went down from the stage, and as he passed by Dean Xiao, he murmured, "Old man, why did you come so late?" Dean Xiao glared at him and responded, "Is it that hard to stay out of trouble?" Mo Fan chuckled without commenting any further. "Go ahead and treat your wounds," Dean Xiao blurted out after he saw Mo Fan's injuries. Mo Fan quickly left the dueling ground. No matter how dissatisfied the people of the fire school or the other elements were, they had no choice but to leave the place. That being said, talk about the duels that had lasted from the morning to late at night was surely going to spread wildly through the school. It's not too bad. The fire resistance granted by your soul seed's flame is fairly strong. Someone else would suffer from lingering effects of the burn for a few months without getting treated in time. The healing magic I've given you can only treat the wounds on your skin, but there are still some lingering effects in your body. You'll have to consume some countering medicine for a week, said Bai Mei after giving Mo Fan a thorough check over. Mo Fan nodded. From what he recalled, the lingering effect of a burn was something he should not underestimate. Otherwise, it might slowly penetrate his inner organs. By that time, healing magic would be fairly useless against it. He could only use a significant amount of medicine and other recovery magic to heal it slowly. The medicine was relatively costly, and something that most hunters spent lots of money on. "Thanks, Mr. Bai Mei," said Mo Fan. "By the way, something is a little strange about your body composition. Did your body go through some kind of irregular modification?" said Bai Mei all of a sudden. "Is there something wrong with it?" asked Mo Fan. "I can't really tell. Normally, the injuries of those who are suffering from a burn will slowly worsen, posing a threat to their lives when the condition worsens to a certain level. However, I discovered that your wounds are already showing signs of recovery when you came down from the stage," said Bai Mei. "Isn't that a good thing? It's just showing that my body can heal faster." Bai Mei shook his head and continued after looking him up and down. "I wouldn't mention it if it was a normal recovery. Something is a bit strange about your body. If possible, I suggest finding a more proficient healer to give your body a thorough exam. I can sense some kind of irritable element inside your body, and it's not any magic element, white magic, or dimensional magic that we usually see. If anything, it bears similarities to black magic." Mo Fan glanced at Bai Mei in astonishment. He had once acquired the power of the demon element. However, some aged magicians in the southern military had confirmed that most of the residue of the demon element in his body had dissipated. This Bai Mei's cultivation was fairly outstanding, otherwise, he would not be able to sense the remnants of it. If the demon element could be considered an element, it would surely be listed as a black magic. Mo Fan could not help but be impressed by this teacher. "All right, I'll ask around." "Thanks, sir," answered Mo Fan. Mo Fan was worn out by the time he arrived back at his apartment. Ai Tutu swung her large breasts around while talking to Mo Fan, who was lying on the couch continuously. The girl seemed exceedingly excited. Her gleaming eyes were somewhat surprisingly displaying a slight hint of admiration toward Mo Fan. On the other hand, Mu Nujiao was more worried about his injuries. She blamed him for stirring up trouble just after he had returned to school. Mo Fan fell asleep halfway without knowing it. He was indeed too tired, but he did enjoy himself in the jewels. Mo Fan woke up at midnight and saw he was covered in a thick blanket. The previously lively living room was silent. Mo Fan took a can of cider from the fridge and switched to lying on the balcony, where the air was much fresher. The overall strength of the students here at the main campus is a lot stronger than I imagined. Those born with innate soul seeds were only ranked slightly over 100 in the fire school. Doesn't that mean lots of people ranked in the top 100 have a chance to defeat me, and those ranked in the top 50 or even top 10 are pretty much a bunch of monsters? Mumbled Mo Fan after taking a sip from the pineapple cider. He was only in one of the element schools in the main campus. If all the elements were combined, the number of experts would be comparable to the number of hairs on a cow. It was not an easy task for him to stand out among them. He still had lots of room for improvement. If he managed to find himself a contracted beast, his strength would improve significantly. He should try and level up his lightning nebula to the 3rd tier, too. Not to mention his shadow element, which was still at the 1st tier. The giant shadow spike twins was an extremely useful spell. Last but not least, equipment. He only had 2 pieces of equipment. It was said that those ranked in the top 50 each had a set of equipment. If he were to fight against any of them, he would find himself at a disadvantage because of his equipment. It seemed like he should be cultivating more diligently, to fill up the current gaps in his strength. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 430. Your snake scales are trash. Sigh. His cultivation had not improved at all for half a year. It was not a good thing for him. The competition at the main campus was more intense than he had imagined, and the distribution of resources was fairly straightforward. In order to level up his lightning nebula to the 3rd tier, he had to cultivate in the 3-step tower. The cultivation speed granted by the little loach pendant was enough for Mo Fan to pass the accumulation period fairly quickly, but to have a breakthrough in his cultivation, he had to rely on external assistance from unique places like the 3-step tower, which contained a high concentration of elemental energy. Only those ranked in the top 50 were allowed to cultivate in the 3-step tower. He was currently ranked 100th, still a distance away from reaching his goal. He also needed a week for his body to recover. Although he had cleared the challenges, there was no way he could challenge someone for the rest of the week. I should try and secure a higher rank in the 2nd challenge week. Mo Fan grabbed the can and emptied the cool cider into his throat after roughly setting his direction in mind. The lingering effect from the burn was rather annoying. He kept feeling that something was burning in his body, giving him a dull pain. Drinking something icy did not necessarily make any difference, but it just felt so good. The 4th week of every month was the 2nd challenge week. In the 1st challenge week, Mo Fan was forced to take on consecutive challenges, but half a month later, it was his time to climb the ranking. The resources given by the school were quite generous. If he could not secure the highest possible rank, his cultivation would fall behind fairly quickly. After feeling that he had fully recovered after a week's rest at home, Mo Fan recalled what Old Bao had mentioned and went to the Dongfang Oriental Tower with his beloved snake scales. With the introductory letter in hand, Mo Fan went to the main hall of the Magic Association and quickly located the armor forgemaster, Huo Tuo, who was rather famous inside the tower. Huo Tuo was highly respected. He even had his own luxurious guest room in the Magic Association. Due to the height of the Magic Association's location in the Oriental Pearl Tower, one could easily capture the most beautiful moment of the Wangpu River through the French windows. The two most authoritative magic associations in the country were the Magic Palace in the capital, Beijing, and the Dongfang Pearl Magicians. Therefore, someone with a guest room like this was definitely no ordinary person. It seemed like Old Bao was indeed a reclusive expert. "Hi, I'm Mr. Huo's disciple, Li Junan," said a young man in neat attire politely. "Oh, hello, I'm here for Mr. Huo. Is he in?" said Mo Fan as he glanced at the man with the shameless name. "He is in, it's just that his temper isn't very good," said Li Junan softly. "I understand, but Old Bao has told me that only Mr. Huo Tuo can handle the material I have, so I do hope you can tell him that," Mo Fan said sternly and sincerely. A constructor was usually an earth magician, while most of the forge masters were lightning and fire magicians. The rare bones, scales, and skin from demon beasts had a unique composition, which was impossible to break down with ordinary machinery. They had to rely on the forge master's special fires to smelt them, or lightning to conduct electrolysis. The process was similar to gold smelting. In order to turn gold into jewelry, they first smelted the gold, then used magical equipment to cool it down and solidify it, forming the shape they needed. Similarly, the material used to craft equipment had to be smelted first. Otherwise, how could the material obtained from demon beasts possibly be in usable shapes like boots, armor, bracelets, pendants, rings, and so on? Besides, since the equipment was bound to the user's soul, they needed to be activated prior to use. In this world, only the rare skin, bones, claws, scales, feathers, and such of monstrous beasts contained the energy required to bind them to human souls. Hence, many hunters were collecting them by hunting demon beasts in the wild. They were only interested in acquiring materials that could be bound to human souls for crafting equipment. The scales Mo Fan was holding were rare scales of the snake species. But what exactly was the Black Totem snake's rank? A boss among bosses, a war machine among ruler-level creatures. His rare scales were clearly too complicated to be worked by ordinary forgemasters. Old Bao had made that extremely clear to Mo Fan. This Li Junan was obviously sent by Huo Tuo to chase him away. Mo Fan went straight to the point instead of beating about the bush. Li Junan was not too happy when he heard Mo Fan's words. He was a disciple taught by Huo Tuo himself, thus he could basically handle everything that his teacher was capable of. Besides, what could a 20-year-old magician possibly have that he could not handle? "Can you show me your rare scales?" Li Junan still had enough manners to not fall out immediately. That being said, he was not someone with a great temper either. If the guy's material was deemed worthless by his discerning eye, he would tell him to leave the tower, take the second line of the subway to East Nanjing Station, then take the 10th line there to Tiantong Road Station. He would find lots of forgemasters at the stalls on Chipu Road. Sure thing, Mo Fan opened his bag and took out the blue-black snake scales. The truth was, he only had 2 pieces of the snake scales, but due to the Black Totem snake's enormous size, the scales were basically as huge as a piece of garment. The blue-black scales were placed on the table. They somehow resembled a piece of old leather just taken out from the furnace, instead of something glistening like a priceless treasure piece. Why did it look so horrible? Mo Fan had no clue, since he had received it from Tang Yu. On second thought, if the scales were glistening, why would the Black Totem snake take them off? "What the heck is this black piece of shit? Can you please?" Li Junan coldly harumphed. He was just about to teach Mo Fan how to take the subway when he suddenly discovered something strange about the scales. They did not even have any snake marks. He should at least let the idiot know. "Have you heard of snake marks?" "Yeah," said Mo Fan. "Your material is garbage." "Why is that?" Mo Fan raised his brows. "The rarer the snake, the finer the snake marks. Your scales don't even have any snake marks on them. It's totally black. Did you pull it from a servant class creature?" asked Li Junan haughtily. Mo Fan took a closer look. His material was indeed solid black, without any trace of a snake mark. However, These were 2 pieces of the black totem snake's scales. The snake marks were usually visible when looking at the whole snake. How could they possibly be visible on just 2 pieces of scales? The slight hint of blue on the material was part of the marks. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.